Keep bribing me, I put you on blast. Beware, you call me, I record it. And everybody will find out what the billionaires are trying to do on behalf of Cuomo to affect this election. Not me.
You know why I think you're making it up, Mr. Sliwa? Because you have made it up many times before.
Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, and Curtis Sliwa. I trust Curtis Sliwa's word the most.
Welcome to New York One's Off Topic on Politics. I'm New York One investigative reporter Courtney Gross. 5.5 weeks, believe it or not, until Election Day, and accusations, well, they just keep coming. Curtis Sliwa is accusing the Cuomo team, or really Cuomo supporters, of potentially bribery. Meanwhile, polls are still showing that Zohran Mamdani maintains a comfortable lead. We're going to get to all of it and catch you up on the race for mayor. And then there is another competition happening across the 5 boroughs and in Westchester County, and that is to get 3 gaming licenses that will be issued by the state by the end of the year. Already, the Manhattan projects have been rejected, killed, not going to happen. So we'll catch you up on who is still in the running in that competition. And joining me for this discussion is our Bobby Cuza.
Hey, Courtney. Putting all my cards on the table.
How many? I didn't have any puns, did I? Because I was just speaking off the top of my head. Cards on the table.
I liked it when the Manhattan casinos got voted down and they went bust.
Is that a gaming thing?
Yeah, you go bust.
I hate gambling.
It's a card reference.
Should I not say that? It doesn't make me biased. I'm just not a gambler. Bernadette Hogan is here too.
Hey there. I like
Inveterate gambler.
Crazy. Yeah. I like horses and I like horse racing, but I don't like gambling.
Yeah, is that mean to the horses?
I'm really mixed because I have this.
We're not talking about horse carriages here.
Oh, I have a similar interpretation of the horse carriage debate, which we don't need to go into. But I think with horse racing, unfortunately, you have a lot of horse people can be really scummy, and they'll drug the horses. They've been overbred for decades, and if a horse is done racing by 3 or 4 years old, and they don't have anywhere to put them, like often they get shipped off to kill factories, in Canada. But there are really good owners and trainers and some groups that take these horses.
This is not about horse racing. This is about table games.
Can we only talk about horses?
Gambling and full-fledged casinos that in some cases will also have some horse racing attached to it, but we're going to put that on pause. We're going to hold our cards.
We're going to hold our horses.
Okay.
All right, can we move this along, Courtney?
Bird just
snorted.
I just whinnied. That scenario.
Whinnied.
Okay, wait. Let's pause there, and we're going to go to the mayor's race. Now, Mayor Eric Adams is saying one of the things I forgot to mention in the intro was Mayor Eric Adams has been railing against this transgender bathroom policy. We know the Trump administration threatened funding for school districts, for departments of education that do not conform to their idea of what bathroom policy should be. They say the transgender bathroom policy of allowing someone to go to the bathroom, allowing a child to go to the bathroom in the bathroom that best suits their gender identity is discriminatory. So this has been something Mayor Eric Adams has been talking about. So we're going to start our mayoral race conversation there. Since when I was away last week, he started talking about it, right,
Yeah,
Bobby?
he started talking about it kind of out of the blue one day last week. I wasn't there, but he was talking about Mamdani and about the DSA and his supporters and how they've hijacked the party, these far left policies. And then he brought up boys and girls bathrooms,
saying it was dangerous for girls.
So then he's been asked, then Cindy was asked about it the next day and kind of doubled down. And then now there's been several instances of him like harping on this. And it's kind of weird to me because on the one hand, we've seen all these instances over the past 6-8 months or even longer where Mayor Adams has been, he seems to have shifted and taken on these right-wing kind of Trumpian views or talking points, at least, which he denies, right? He says he hasn't changed his position, but everybody has always interpreted this as, oh, the mayor is cozying up to Trump, first because he wanted to get his corruption case dropped, and then more recently because maybe he was angling for a job with the Trump administration. But in this case, that doesn't really, the job with the Trump administration, I don't think is really so much on the table anymore. So it's like, why is he all of a sudden taking on this issue of trans, school bathroom policy? And then it turns out that the Trump administration has been threatening to withhold funding. It looks like now they actually will withhold funding. But
around 15 million or so.
But the mayor has denied that has anything to do with it. So it's like, if he's like somehow going to bat for the city and like trying to save funding, like wouldn't he say that? It's just weird to me. I don't understand where this, like what the motivation is for him pivoting on this, if he's pivoting at all, which again, he
claims that he's not, right? There was an interview that he did with Pix 11 News earlier this week, and he was asked extensively about it and the timing of it, Bernadette, because obviously the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education sent this threatening letter to school districts, and then literally the next day the mayor is talking about it, and he said in that interview, I've had this position all along. I mean, I can't recall him talking about transgender bathroom policies.
I can't remember any city official talking about it at least the mayor of the last 4 years, right? I mean, the last time this really was an issue was under former Governor Andrew Cuomo, when this was an issue with the bathroom bill, right? And I remember covering that, but in the city, it hasn't been a thing. But like you said, it's the timing of it. The mayor, he had done it was a slew of campaign and government events, and as he was railing against Mamdani, saying some of his policies wouldn't work, then he just brings up this bathroom conversation, and then lo and behold, it also has to do with federal funding and what's coming down from
and I mean, almost goes without saying, this like runs totally contrary to the liberal orthodoxy here in New York, right? I mean, it's almost like taken for granted that this is, this is the policy,
haven.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, ironically, it's seen as a anti-discrimination policy, whereas now the prevailing view, at least in the Trump administration, is that it's actually discrimination against women, right? And it violates Title IX. But this is like kind of a right-wing talking point, right? I mean, this is what we've seen. I mean, however you feel about the policy, it's clearly something that the right has fixated on very effectively in the past few years, right? Where they have made this like a wedge issue, a cultural issue to hit Democrats with. And then
one of the most popular campaign ads last year's presidential election was about transgender issues and whether Kamala Harris was supporting the idea of detainees or inmates in federal prisons allowed to get transgender surgeries. Right. It's such a hot button issue.
And also girls sports, right?
Yeah.
Girls sports, which I don't think the mayor has, I don't remember him weighing in on. I
think he said during his series of interviews this week. That
you mean previously? Like
I'm saying previously because that was a big issue. I'm just thinking of Bruce Blakeman, the county executive in Nassau County, right? Republican. That's been a huge issue in the suburbs and especially in the last, the midterms. But I don't remember the mayor ever. These just aren't city issues that, they kind of just seem like no-brainers, I guess, that this wouldn't be at risk. Yeah. And it would make sense, though, that if the Trump administration is saying that the city, is I could see this happening under de Blasio too, that federal funding would be withheld. But Adams is trying to have it both ways by saying he doesn't support
but we should be clear. The mayor has been talking about this for days, how there shouldn't be boys and girls, shouldn't be showering with little girls, which that seems to be like his line. But he can't change the policy, right? Even though he's in charge of the school system, he can't do anything about it because there's state law, there's city human rights law, I think. And so he can't just like by fiat say, okay, we're going to have bathrooms that are based on biological sex and that's it. Like that, he doesn't have the power to do that.
So I wonder if he was just kind of trying to preempt what was going to happen
with the Trump administration, or if he's just, like we said at the beginning of the conversation, trying to cozy up to the Trump administration because there is this idea that maybe he'll get a job at some point or drop out of the race. That leads me to my next point of there's been so much speculation. Our spidey senses are all up because the mayor did lots of campaign events the week before, but it's been 5 days since he did a campaign event. He did take some questions this morning. Our Kelly Mena is there with him at a housing related event that's a government event, I believe. But there's this question of it's still hanging out there of whether or not he's going to stick it out and stay in the race. Like, even though the mayor continues to say that or just bat away the question, it's still out there. And
he's like so cagey about it because I watched all those, he did all these TV interviews on Monday. The
Pix one in particular where Dan Minorino was really laying into him, like trying to pin him down on what he wanted to do.
No, I can't put it to bed because you're not going to let me go to sleep. Who are we kidding, Dan? I've answered this question over and over again. And that's why New Yorkers are saying, well, is he still in the race? Because no matter how I respond, it has been reported differently. I'm being undermined
So let's put it to do it
by
right now.
the media.
And basically, it was almost like trying to give him an opportunity to put this to bed, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you just definitively say, there's no way I'm dropping out. I'm in the race till the end, and then we'll stop bringing this up. But he won't. Like he kept saying, like he said, I'm not going to do it. He kept referring back to the Gracie Mansion speech he gave a few weeks ago, where he was pretty definitive, it seemed. But then now when he's asked about it, he has this line like saying, well, it doesn't matter what I say, the media is going to report whatever it is they want. So but he's being so like cagey about it that we just keep speculating like what's really, but I mean, now we're like a month out from early voting.
5.5 weeks. I said it in my intro, Bobby. You should listen.
I know what page for the intro. And then he also was, I think in those interviews, he had this line he used more than once about how these other guys I have a day job. These other guys don't, right?
Yeah.
So like, Andrew Cuomo and Zoran Mamdani. I mean, Mamdani's an assemblyman, but they're out of session. So I guess he doesn't have to be anywhere. So Adams is saying, I have a day job. I have all these other responsibilities. And he said the campaign is in public and in private. So that's his rationale for why he's not out doing more campaign events. But like you said, he was doing a lot of campaign events.
And then all of a sudden doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then I think the Daily News reported today that when was asked, his campaign spokesperson was asked, what's going on? Like, is he still in the race? Is he still campaigning? I think his campaign spokesperson only sent back an emoji smiley face, which I don't know what that's supposed to mean necessarily. Even if the mayor were to drop out, and this can lead us to our discussion of Zoran Mamdani, is, there was another poll out this week. We've been seeing the same trends be reflected in a lot of the polls that we cover here at NY1's. Suffolk University came out with a poll. It's not one that we typically cover, but, for our purposes here, Mamdani, 45%. I mean, very similar to where he was at with all of the other polls, the Times poll and the Quinnipiac, Siena, et cetera. Cuomo with 25%. The mayor, Curtis Sliwa, 9%, and Mayor Eric Adams has 8%. So, I mean, how many ways can we describe the mayor's run for re-election? Long shot.
It's an uphill battle.
Never going to happen. Is that too harsh? But like, it's, maybe he's not campaigning because the writing's on the wall, and maybe he's having a tough time raising money. That's the other thing he was talking about in that series of interviews.
Well, and he said that he's campaigning against us, the media. And he had some line where he said, it's like
Everyone
I'm running
loves
against
to-
you guys. And he said, I thought it was funny. He said something like, you're the 6th candidate. And I was like, 6? Where?
Like the media
What
is, he said?
I don't know who he was
People love
counting as the
to-
first 5 candidates.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're sabotaging the campaign with all this reporting and speculation. And so he's having a hard time fundraising and finding support. So I guess we're the problem, and we're the reason that the mayor is polling in the single digits.
And Mamdani continues to coalesce support. I mean, Yvette Clarke, I think since their last episode, Bobby, Yvette Clarke has come out in favor of Mamdani. She
Yvette
endorsed him over the
Clarke.
weekend.
Yvette Clarke, I guess Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the state Senate Majority Leader, had already backed him, but appeared with him last week on Friday. He got the support of Speaker Carl Hastie, which, I mean, those will be more like pragmatic alliances for him when he's mayor, just starting off on a good foot, because as we've seen with the current mayor, although he was a state senator and actually served with Stewart-Cousins, when they were in the state Senate, they did not have a good relationship for multiple reasons. Don't have to go back to it. But Adams kind of took those relationships for granted, and he did have a good alliance with Governor Hochul. But if Mamdani can position himself where he has a good relationship with all three, it just further helps his agenda and, achieving all the things that he's promising on the campaign trail. But then Wednesday, he was up in the Bronx, in the West Bronx, with 1199 workers. So he kind of has just been crisscrossing the map, appearing with a lot of union supporters, which will also be helpful for him. And they also have an interest there because of contracts if he's mayor. But Mamdani is able to contrast himself and throw Cuomo and Adams as, he calls them puppets of the Trump administration.
How about the Kamala Harris endorsement?
That was kind of a lackluster endorsement. She was on Rachel Maddow and she was asked whether or not she supports him. And I think she basically just said, well, I support the Democrats.
Yeah.
So it's not like she was a full-fledged, full-throated, oh my God, Zohran Mamdani is the best thing since sliced bread.
They spoke on the phone yesterday as well. So again, Wednesday in the car. Just about the camp. So they were in the car, or he was in the car waiting to come out to speak to us in the Bronx.
And he was on the phone with her.
He was on the phone with her. Yeah, they told, whatever, doesn't matter to go back and forth. But
wait, do we know if did he call her?
She called him.
Okay.
But I mean, she also had
how'd she get his number?
A town hall at town hall.
I have his number. You want it?
I suppose sometimes I wonder how these people get each other's numbers.
Well, think about the connections though, Patrick Gaspard.
Yeah,
the world becomes tiny when you know the right people.
I don't know if the Kamala Harris endorsement. I don't know what that's.
I don't think it does anything for him.
But
she lost. I mean, at the end of the day, she didn't.
I think it's a reflection of mainstream Democrats going and coalescing around him. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, the point
has been saying, he said again this week that he'll have an announcement on the mayor's race soon. I mean, hopefully it's not today and our podcast isn't outdated, but
I think that got a little pushed back because of what's happening in DC with the funding fight.
Yeah, they've got other problems to worry about. But I mean, it sounds like it's just a matter of time, right?
Yeah,
With Jeffries?
Yeah, I mean, that's the sense that I'm getting. I don't know if your sources are saying anything different. But
if you had talked to me a month ago, I would have said he doesn't need to endorse him, but he's just getting so much heat. Jeffries is getting so much heat now for not coalescing around the Democratic nominee and the Democrats just continuing to eat themselves alive and being unable to get their path straight and forward, But I think... Jeffries has his own battle with the Democratic Socialists on the state and city level, city council, assembly, Senate. These are people that he spends money against, and they continue to either win seats. So he has his own, I mean, all politics are local, but Jeffries has to
worry about his own seat.
Right. So it's been a tough thing for him to navigate. But I also think, when he speaks about this in public, he's not giving convincing answers.
One final thought in the mayor's race, and that is some news that came out of Curtis Sliwa's camp this week. I mean, we know that Curtis likes to say lots of interesting or different things on the campaign trail or on the radio, and he made this accusation.
Doesn't mean it's not true.
That billionaires were trying to get him to drop out of the race and potentially trying to bribe him. I don't know if you have more details on what exactly
he said this at a press conference, and then I called him and I just said, can you lay this out for me? What's the timeline? He said that he has been getting offers of jobs and money to jump out of the race since January.
Wow.
So longer than we had thought. And I said, well, why now are you just bringing this up? Because what was it, a month ago back in August when he denied ever getting a job offer from the Trump administration to drop out? He said that still stands. I have not been contacted by them. But he said that representatives of companies and of billionaires have reached out to him as well as individuals themselves. He said not John Catsimatidis, though.
Yeah.
But he tries to pin it on Cuomo.
So, right. So he says that these are people that are being put up to it by Andrew Cuomo. There are Cuomo-affiliated, Cuomo donors, and that Cuomo's behind it to try to push him out of the race so that Andrew Cuomo can be the only person that faces Mamdani. Because again, Cuomo thinks that he has the best chance in a one-on-one match with Mamdani.
And Cuomo's team obviously denied this.
Yes, they denied it.
It's just more intrigue in the race.
And Sliwa says, don't stop offering me all this money, right? He said, I'm going to start recording your phone call. I'm going to start recording the calls.
Well, he should anyway. But
stop offering me millions of dollars.
And Mamdani, when I was with him yesterday, he said, listen, Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, Curtis Sliwa, I believe Curtis Sliwa the most out of all of those guys. And they both have this anti-billionaire, can't be bought, working for New Yorkers vibe. It's just on two different ends. And just last thing I'll say on that, when I covered Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani at Brooklyn College a couple weeks ago, I got a surprising amount of people who said, no way Andrew Cuomo, no way Eric Adams, but Curtis Sliwa is my next choice after Zohran Mamdani.
Yeah.
Like they were clear Mamdani people, but they were like, Curtis Sliwa is probably the best person after.
If we had ranked choice, then we'd know for sure.
Okay, we're going to pause there. And for our YouTube listeners, Stick with us. For our podcast listeners, we'll be right back, and we're going to talk about the race to build some casinos.
Certainly, I've been committed to community input from the beginning, and the communities have spoken. These are their neighborhoods. It's their livelihoods, where they raise their kids, and their voices have been heard.
Okay, so first there were a dozen applications. I've been covering this for years. Bobby Cuza, you might be doing the questions.
Yes. Yeah. Should I just
wrote
take it
the
from
questions. Do you want to take? Well, let me do a little summary. Do you want to do the summary?
No, you do the summary.
I'll do the summary.
Yeah.
Okay, so there were 12 applicants. Then that whittled down to 8 to go through this community advisory committee process where you have representatives from the local elected officials actually voting up or down on these proposals. And the 3 Manhattan projects got killed in the last week. Bye-bye, no more. So now there's only 5 left standing. The first one to actually get through this process, to get through this local committee to vote for it up or down, to vote up, to get to the next state board who will make the final decision, was the MGM Yonkers Casino, Empire City, that you see when you're going on 87 north. It's on the right side, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's over there.
Yeah.
I'm like in the car thinking.
Right.
So the first one to finally get through the process to the next stage. And then this afternoon, we're taping Thursday around 12:30, 12:45. This afternoon, Resorts World will get its vote. But it has been hot topic.
And probably pass.
Yes.
I mean, we don't know. Can't say the future. We can't foretell the future.
I can probably say the future.
So I mean, we think we're pretty sure that the Coney Island Casino is going to die, and that leaves, assuming Resorts World in Queens passes today. So we've got Resorts World in Queens, we've got MGM in Yonkers, and then City Field, the Steve Collin project, and Bally's in the Bronx, right? So that's 4 casinos for 3 licenses.
Yes.
So the odds are pretty good for the, I mean, the whole thing is there's these community advisory committees that can kill the project, but assuming they don't get voted down, now they're advancing to the next stage.
Yes. So we think that 4 out of what had been 12 applicants back in the day will get to the final stage of the process, where this board that has been appointed, I believe by the Gaming Commission. Now I can't even remember who appointed them because it's been so long.
I think it was the Gaming Commission.
Yeah, the Gaming Facility Location Board exists to approve these, to determine who gets these licenses. 3 available, and but most likely up to 3. That's a good point, Bern. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to issue the 3 licenses. They could issue 1, they could issue none, they could issue 2, they could issue 3.
They could do 4 as well.
No, it's up to 3.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
4 is more than 3.
4 is more than 3.
Wait, I know that you're not good at Wait, I know that I
3.
Forget it, just keep going. Like I made the point to say up to 3 on the same wavelength as you. Just forget me. God.
So what was astounding over the last week, and I was on vacation, so I felt bad because I've been covering this for so long and I wasn't here, and I was watching from afar. All of these Manhattan projects get voted down. Yeah. So it started first with the Caesars SL Green project, which we know Frank Carone was working for, the mayor's former chief of staff. Gets rejected. Mark Holliday, the CEO of SL Green, who's a big backer of the mayor, kind of mouths off at the committee members, these local people who've been appointed by like Eric Botcher and local elected officials, saying that they are doing this community an injustice. He was slated to get lots and lots of money if he had gotten a casino license. So I'm sure that was floating around in the back of his head. And then after that, the Avenir on the west side, which was the Silverstein project, that gets rejected. And then finally, the Freedom Plaza on Monday, which was on the east side of Manhattan, right? Yeah, the east side, right below the UN, which was put forward by the Mohegan Sun and Soloviev Group, which is this finance company. That gets rejected.
But what's crazy to me is that, like, those 3 projects, all in Manhattan, we've been talking about these projects for years, and these companies have spent like probably tens of millions of dollars, not more. Yeah. Putting the proposals together, lobbying. I mean, it's been years, and then they go before this board appointed by local elected officials, and it gets rejected. Which, like, didn't we all think that was going to happen in the first place? We knew from the beginning that the local electeds were against this.
Which is we knew that the Manhattan casinos were going to have a really, really uphill battle. The odds were stacked against them. The cards were stacked against them. They were a losing bet potentially, but there was still like a smidgen of, I'll say the word hope in the eyes of the developers and the casino companies, because when I speak to gaming experts, when you think about strategically trying to increase gaming revenue and get the most amount of revenue, which will get the most amount of revenue for the state, you want to be able to tap multiple markets. If you have a casino in Queens, in the shadow of Citi Field that Steve Cohen wants to build, you're going to tap Long Island, you're going to tap Manhattan, maybe you'll tap Bronx and maybe some Westchester if it's like really great.
If the traffic
but are people from New Jersey going to drive across Manhattan through the tunnel into Queens, up the Van Wyck? Like that's far, right? Like you can tap people coming in from JFK, get them to stay there maybe for a day, and maybe then they move on to Manhattan potentially. But there's a whole other local market, and this is the idea of having a regional casino versus a national destination.
Right.
You want to be able to tap into the regional market because there are casinos in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and Connecticut
upstate New York.
and upstate New York. So you want to be able to take away some of that revenue. And by having it in Manhattan, and this is what Freedom Plaza argued and the rest of the Manhattan casinos argued, is you are attracting the tourist community who stay in Manhattan. You're attracting the people who live in New Jersey, Westchester, Staten Island, everywhere, because you're in the center of the universe in Times Square or in Midtown or somewhere else. And that's why they kept pushing. And, you know, as someone who doesn't gamble, doesn't personally like casinos all that much, like going into this, covering this many years ago, I mean, that was a convincing argument to me that, if we're going to do this, like, let's do it, right? Let's make sure that we get the most amount of revenue for the state, for the MTA, for our educational system. And another thing, but obviously that didn't win out the day.
And you know, I mean, two things. Number one, the way that like these advisory panels were set up, and you know that the local officials could get literally just have whoever their person is that was appointed speak with their voice. The democracy of that, I mean, it like Bobby said, it was dead from the start. Because when on earth was your Eric Botcher, your Liz Kruger, your
Brad Hoylman?
They never, I mean, Liz Kruger, I mean, doesn't even want little, what are they called? Like the mopeds, but they're scooters, the scooters. I mean, this has been...
She doesn't even want scooters. How's she going to have slot machines?
My point is, right, because, I mean, in Manhattan, she's like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But to your point, but it's a bigger issue for, you know, the governor and the mayor. If the governor...
Who are both, by the way, their appointees are voting in favor of all of these.
As we expected them to.
Voting in favor, absolutely. But you know what? That's no measure standing up to these other guys. And if I were SL Green and any of these other groups, I would have been like, okay, is New York not open for business? I mean, do you not care about my business? And also, I'm not gonna, like, the governor's up for re-election. I know it's not really going to matter, but I guess the point is...
It potentially is going to matter. I mean,
it couldn't, but like, but where these were proposed to be, also, like, you know, you had the promise for redevelopment of space that is, you know, needs to be redeveloped, or not a lot's going on. And, you know, it probably would be good for the neighborhood with security measures, cleanliness measures. Like you said, New Jersey, I mean, we have congestion pricing right now. If there's 2 Queens casinos, already it's such a freaking nightmare to get out to Citi Field. How are people going to get into work if there's going to be a floodgate? I'm just like, I don't understand not utilizing the Manhattan Island benefits.
I mean, I think there is a point to be made there, and obviously,
and it really would improve transit, because then there would be more pressure to do those much needed MTA
ship
upgrades.
Has sailed. We're not going to get a Manhattan casino.
Doesn't matter.
And what they're going to argue, and what the governor and the people who designed this process through state legislation are going to argue, is that they created this CAC, this Community Advisory Committee process. The Gaming Commission will tell you as much, to make sure there was local community buy-in, that there was community support. And the way in which they decided to measure that is through the representatives of the area, through the elected officials. So I've been, you know, talking to Dan Rivley, who's been, you know, covering for me on this beat a little bit while I was away. And we've been talking about this exact thing of, why can't there just be one in Manhattan? This process isn't working if all of them are getting rejected. And my argument against that will be, well, the process is working.
Well, the process is
because
working,
they designed
exactly.
it to have the community want it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and he's like, well, it's not working. But I'm like, okay, but look at Queens. Queens is saying yes.
Yeah.
You know, the Bronx is, with the exception of Christy Marmorata, the local councilwoman, is probably going to say yes. That Bally's casino application is probably getting to the next
So wait, but
level.
based on what you were saying about market, then it seems extremely unlikely they're going to approve Bally's and City Field,
yeah.
which are like they're almost right next to
don't
each
know.
other. They're
Yeah,
right
I don't
across.
know.
What
I mean,
about
they're
like
right across the bridge.
resorts and City Field too?
Well,
I mean, those are very
Queens
different.
resident at the
Different.
table, I will tell you, as someone who lives on
I know
the
it's
very
different.
opposite end, that I live near Resorts World. It's 20 minutes for me.
Yeah, and it already has the infrastructure.
City Field is an hour.
Right,
Yeah.
they're not that
Without
close to each
I know
other.
it's not that close.
It's far.
But if you're coming from JFK and
Yeah, but I mean, these are the questions that the Gaming Facility Location Board, the arm of the Gaming Commission, will
Yeah.
have to consider. And it is being headed up by Vicki Bean, who used to run the Furman
Right.
Center at NYU. She's very well versed in development and redevelopment and economic activity. She was a deputy mayor under Bill de Blasio. There's a bunch of other people, three other people on this small committee who will have the total say over who gets the license.
I guess the question, like what you brought up is so key. Is this a regional attraction or is it a local attraction? Because if we're
or is
talking
this a worldwide destination?
It's a worldwide
Yeah.
destination. And New York City already is a worldwide destination. However, do we have the roadways, the transit capacity, the market in places like the Bronx? I mean, again, how would you get up to Bally's? The traffic is bad to get up there. And what if I'm coming from Manhattan? I'm going to jump on, the 456? Like,
No, you're definitely
or am I
driving.
going
There's no train.
Am I going to
Yeah.
jump on a
definitely driving.
ferry in the
Yeah.
winter to
Yeah.
get up there and slip and crack my head open?
This is
But-
dark.
No, but
It
my
got
point,
dark all of a sudden.
my point is though, like that is not, that's a regional attraction. I mean,
Yeah.
not regional, that's a local attraction.
Yeah.
And our Bronx, again, do Bronx residents want that? I was just up there talking to them about one of the jails that's going to be put in the South Bronx. And they're like, we keep just becoming a dumping ground for certain things. And there's not infrastructure improvement, roadway improvement. Like across Bronx, you do not want to drive on that thing.
Yeah.
So
And if you look at the line of like where they're the four that are potentially going to get to the next
Yeah.
level are, like, I wish if my hand, for our YouTube listeners, that's why she watch us on YouTube. It's like, oh, this is going to be bad, because I'm thinking like this.
But the Yonkers-
Queens and this is
yeah.
the Bronx. It's literally like in a little row.
It is,
If
yeah.
you look at the map of where they're proposed, where it's like almost all on the Van Wyck. Like driving on the Van Wyck, I go to the Whitestone, and that's literally
Like,
where Bally's would be. It's like right there. It's like all on the same.
I'm just
road.
thinking of all the stories that I do that requires me to drive in those areas, and it's already really a nightmare because you really can't. You can take public transportation; it just takes a while. But driving will be an absolute nightmare.
But I will say with
Van Wyck, what do you have? Whatever you say is
with
already.
Resorts
Final
World
thoughts.
and with Yonkers, they already have the
Yeah.
Racino.
The Racino.
Yes, that's
So I mean, the facility like already exists. There's just a matter of expanding it. The City Field would be new, right? This would be something that would be like built from the ground up.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
ones are they're already there. Like whatever. There's
Yeah.
not going to be a lot of infrastructure that's required,
yeah,
right?
and their ability to come to the market is, I mean, that's
Yeah.
a selling point, is that they'll be able to open earlier. Okay.
Space and money. I mean, Cohen's got all the cash.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll talk about this again next week, because the final votes, they need to be approved by these CACs by Tuesday. So we will know which ones get to the next level, which we already kind of know. So whatever. Okay, that's going to do it for this week's episode. You can always watch us on Inside City Hall on weeknights at 7 o'clock. And we love your feedback. Send us an email at yourstorynear1@charter.com. You can subscribe to Off Topic wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube like we talk about every week. And if you like what you're hearing, leave a review. Thanks to our producer, Anthony Roman in the corner. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.